Hello everyone, we are using Blender today, and this is Blender version 4.3.2. So maybe you are new to the software and want to learn it, you want to try to do an animation or make a 3D model or whatever you want to do. So let's get started here. This is the splash screen. I'm just going to left click to get out of that. Okay, so first we probably want to know how to select objects. You can left click to select objects. You'll notice that in the outliner, they also get selected, and you can select different objects here too. So I'm going to select this camera, and if I wanted to delete the camera, I can press X and then delete. I'll do the same thing to the light. X, delete. Okay, so if we want to move through this 3D space, we can hold Shift and then press in the middle mouse button, and we will pan. Another way to do that is to hold the Move View button down, and then that will also allow us to pan. If we want to orbit around the cube, we can hold in the middle mouse button, like that, or we can hold the gizmo down. So if you're on a laptop or something, or don't have a middle mouse button, you can still do that. But I would recommend using mouse because it makes everything way easier. We can zoom in and out by scrolling in with the mouse wheel or scrolling out. And we can also do that with this button here, zoom in and out. Okay, so that's the basics of moving around. And one thing you might notice is that when I'm orbiting, the cube isn't really in the middle. But if I hold in the tilde key, which is the key right below the escape key, I can, I'll get a pie menu like this that pops up, and we can hover over view selected, and then I'll let go of the tilde key, and then it kind of orients us to the cube. So now we orbit around the cube, and we zoom in and out to the cube. It becomes our main focus. Now we know how to move around here, but how do we move this cube around? Well, we can press G for grab, and we grab it. So I'm not holding the G key, I just pressed it, and now it's locked to the cursor. If I don't want to move it, I'll right click, and it will go back. So that cancels whatever I'm doing. If I want it to go in a certain spot, I'll left click, and that will accept whatever movement I made. So G, left click, and then there it is. All right, another thing we can do is we can move it along a specific axis. So this is the y-axis. If we look at the gizmo, it aligns with that. And then the x-axis goes this way, and then the z-axis goes up and down. Okay, so let's say we want to move the cube along the x-axis. So I'm going to press G and then X, and that will only be moved in that specific axis. G, Y, only the Y, and then G, Z. Okay, so those are some basic hotkeys, which will be very helpful for moving things. You also have the option along the left side. We have a toolbar, and we can, for example, press the Move tool, and then we can move it along specific axes or do free transform. So that's another way to do to move. We can also rotate an object by pressing R, and then we could do the same thing where we lock specific axes. So RZ for Z, RY, oops, Y, RX. So we can also scale, same idea, press S to scale, and then we can do SZ for only the Z axis, for example. And we can also exclude an axis from whatever operation we want to do. So, for example, I can press S and then Shift Z, and then the cube only gets wider and longer, but not taller. So that can be very useful too. Okay, so we did some basic transformations, we did scaling, we did rotating, we did moving, and there are also these tools here that you can use if you'd rather grab like that with the mouse, but the hotkeys are nice and quick. We saw how to delete an object, X, delete. Now what if we want to add the cube back in? Well, we can press Shift A, and that allows us to add in things, so we can add it in a cube. We can also go to Add up here at the top and do do the same thing, really. So those are really the very basics. If we go on under Edit at the top in Preferences, these are where the main settings are for Blender. So like the interface, we can change the resolution scale, so it kind of changes the size of like the text and like icons and things like that. Viewport, lights, editing, animation, and then extensions. These can be very helpful. These are add-ons that basically run scripts to add additional software to Blender, to the program. So we will look at those more in the future. So of course we can add more objects. If I press Shift A, I can add in, for example, UV sphere. G, Z, I'll move it above the cube. And then to duplicate an object, I can press Shift D, and then Z, so it goes only in the Z axis. And then I have another sphere, S to scale. I'm going to delete this cube. Shift D, duplicate that. And then this time I'm going to right click, so it cancels. Now that didn't cancel me duplicating it. It just canceled where I moved it to. So now I'm going to press G and Z, and then I'll move it down, scale it up, and now it's like we got our little snowman here. So I encourage you to just play around and get kind of familiar with the controls, with the hotkeys, and get used to moving around, get used to pressing the tilde key, view selected. We can also use the gizmo to choose top view, and then choose the different side views. When I press tilde, I also get those options. And then I can also use the numpad 1, 3, 7, for example, to change the views. I'm going to press Control S to save. You can also do a file and then save as, for example. I'm just going to call this Snowman tutorial, and then it's a .blend file. Save as. And there we go. That's all we got for today. So have a good one, everyone.